Hello, folks. I do apologize. Happy Wednesday, Saturday afternoon. I do apologize for starting a little bit later than usual. I had a little bit of technical issues. I thought that I was going to be able to update and change a couple of my hard drives quickly, and unfortunately, that didn't happen on time. So it is what it is, but actually it brings up a really nice topic of conversation related to interviews, is that a lot of times you're going to be very comfortable with interviews. You're going to do a lot of interviews and you're going to feel very comfortable doing those interviews. And what you're going to find is that sometimes you're going to have hiccups, sometimes you're going to have problems, sometimes you're going to have issues, and that's okay. Right? Is that you can feel like an expert or feel like this is an old hat when it comes to answering interview questions. But it's always nice to go back to basics. That's a nice lesson I could have had this morning when I was trying to change a couple of my hard drives. Let's actually focus on why we're actually here today. Last week we spoke about how to, last week we spoke about our, oh yeah, there you go, still have cables running around. Yeah, still have cables running around, there you go. You can tell, USBs and all that stuff, as I was trying to update it this morning. Last week we spent quite a bit of time chatting about, how do you prep for an interview? How do you set yourself up, all the other stuff other than the actual questions themselves, right? We've gone to a point where we're sitting down, smiling. We've asked for the glass of water if they haven't offered it. It gives you opportunity to sip or to ponder a question before you answer it. You have your portfolio, pens ready. You have some questions that you want to ask them related to LinkedIn. You've looked at their LinkedIn, or you've looked at their other than LinkedIn, you've also looked at their Glassdoor reviews and looked at any news about the company online. So you have all that information ready to go, right? So we're not going to talk about that. I think you already have that down pat. I don't think you need to worry about those pieces. So let's talk about the actual questions themselves. When folks ask you questions, how should you be responding to those questions? First and foremost, you want to make sure that any question that asked about a particular item or topic, it's not only are you answering that, but you're also understanding why they're asking that question, right? Very important piece in that is that you need to understand what's the reason behind that question. So one of the questions that most people will get asked, and it doesn't matter what interview you're doing, it could be sales or it could be anything else that you look at, most interviews will have, hey, tell us about yourself. So there can be a couple of reasons why they're asking that question, right? One could be simple as, hey, tell me about yourself. I'm curious. I want to know more about you. It's always good to ask. Great. Would you like me to go over my resume? Or would you like me to just have a chat about things outside of my resume? It sounds a weird thing to ask, but it's always good to ask that question, because guess what? Once you ask that question, you've clarified it. And also, this adds an important element to you when you're having that discussion, right? When you're having that conversation with folks, is that you're showcasing the fact that you are not afraid to ask questions. Very important piece. You're not afraid to ask questions to clarify what they're looking for. You're not going to close your eyes and start, hammering away and working on things. You're going to ask questions to make sure it's clarified, and then you're going to go forward and ask questions, right? You're going to go forward and do the work, right? Ask the questions first. Very important piece if you can actually get that. Just ask them. So let's say they go the route of, it'd be great if you can quickly go through your resume, or give us a summary of your resume. Great. Please do not take this as an opportunity to read through your resume. As I've discussed before, your resume should be your advertising, right? It's your advertisement. It is print advertising, right? So what you want to do is on your resume, you should have been showcasing all the achievements you've had in the particular job role, not the actual job role requirements. You need to be using a lot of metrics as possible, numbers. Please have that in mind. Hopefully you have your resume right in front of you. You listened to me previously and had printed a couple of copies for yourself and the interviewer if they need it. And what you would do is go from top down. So basically most recent to the past experiences, and you start having less detail as you go lower in the ranking because you don't need to worry about it. Or you can do the other way around. You can go chronological order. You can go from back to forward. I've done both depending on what the role requires, what's going on, and you can even ask for clarification. Hey, would you like me to go from most recent experience to the past, or from the past past experience to the most recent? Always good to ask. And then as you're discussing, you can say, hey, look, you give a brief summary of what you did. Hey, I was, let's say you were a store manager. Hey, I was a store manager at, discount or value telecom company. And, this was my first experience in retail. And during that time, I was able to achieve these numbers. And this is the reason why. Or, I was able to get 98% on my audit score, operational audit score. And the main reason I was able to do that was I realized very quickly that for me to manage my location on its own, it's going to be very difficult, that I need to make sure that I was delegating and I was empowering my team to be able to manage and maintain the operations of the store. Guess what I did? So I explained what I achieved, and I explained how I achieved it and why it's beneficial, right? So I had a learning, I did this. If you had a failure first, prime example, when I go there, I'm like, when I had my first audit, I failed because I was looking to do everything on my own and didn't realize the benefit and the requirement that I would have to get my team members to also be responsible for operating, making sure that the system's operating properly or our store's operating properly. And what I did before for the second audit was make sure that I empowered my team members to be able to take ownership of certain sectors and areas of the store to maintain and manage. So when the next audit came, we had the highest audit score in Canada, right? That is, again, very interesting story, similar story what I've told, but now I said, hey, look, I failed first, and then what did I do to make the adjustments and changes? Again, becomes a different story, becomes a failure and triumph. Everyone loves a failure and triumph story, right? Redemption story. Everyone loves it. So that'd be one way to do it. And you go through boom, 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 quickly as possible. But again, you want to make sure anything you want to highlight, you highlight with a story attached to it, right? And then the story, same as any hero's journey stories that you may have heard or you may have read about. Biggest thing with hero's journey is that you have to share where you start from, and then you have to struggle to achieve something, you have to fail, and then you have to succeed, right? And even if you don't succeed, you got to have the hero's journey in there. So it's very important to make sure that you are managing that piece, is that the story is interesting, it's relevant, and it makes sense. If you're just going to say, yes, so I achieved 98% audit score and it was the highest audit score in Canada. Yeah, and we also achieved very high numbers when it came to sales. And that's how I was successful at the store manager role. And then after that, I was promoted to area manager, and over there I did the same thing, and I turned around the area into, from being the bottom to the top 3 locations, top 3 areas in Canada. Guess what? That story, that's not a story. You just basically are telling me what you achieved. And I could have gotten that through a resume, right? Make it connected. And because of, the area manager and our director's retail directors were very impressed by the change and by the success I had and the improvement I showed in my location, my store's operations. And they wanted me to apply for an area manager role for a location that was really that wasn't really doing well. Area that wasn't doing well was actually the bottom of the pile. And the running joke became at that point was that I don't get nice things in life, right? That becomes a joke, and then you slide it on toward the next piece. Hey, look, then I area manager. This is what I achieved. This is what I had to do to make myself be successful, right? So it's, again, make sure whatever you're sharing, you have a story attached to it. You are sharing a story about why you were successful. Okay. So next question, most likely people will have is, well, I'm just going through difficult questions. You can have tons of questions peppered in, asking you, what happens at that piece or that piece within your resume. But what you want to do is, I'm going to just talk about the difficult questions or the ones that generally stump folks. So the other question that I know stumps people is, what is your biggest weakness? Oh my God, I've heard a lot of crazy answers. To be fair, I've given crazy answers. I've given really bad answers for that. The old adage used to be, well, say, you know what, you work really hard, or you're working really hard. That's your biggest problem, is that you work too hard. That's not a weakness, and everyone knows that's kind of a lame answer, to be a nice way to say it. It's a cop-out. Everyone knows that you're faking that answer. No one's biggest weakness is they work too hard, unless you're a workaholic, and that's a separate story. So don't go down that road. It's an absolute terrible road to go down. I think pick an actual thing. Hopefully you've already discussed that in your resume discussion as you're discussing your resume. So prime example is, as I told you, hey, look, the second story when I told you that I wasn't very good at delegating, which is why I wasn't successful in, on my first audit and the second audit, when I learned how to delegate effectively, I was able to achieve the highest score in the country. Perfect. You know what? That's good. As I discussed before, my biggest issue is wanting to control aspects of all the aspects of my job. And what I will often do is I will, I have expectations, and because of that, it's not very easy for me to delegate tasks to people. I've gotten better at it. I've been working on being more hands-off, better at providing instructions, better at delegating responsibility and following up, rather than just having someone else, rather than for me to do all the work myself, right? So you're not showing that, yes, you had a weakness, you recognized it, you pointed out, and then you shared how you're working on improving it, what you have done so far, and what you're doing further on to continue improving your ability on that, right? So that's the important piece, right? What you don't want to do is go, what's your biggest weakness? Well, I don't have any weaknesses. You're a liar. And people are not going to trust you, and people are not going to take your word for anything you say after that point. I've actually ignored people right after that interview question, because I find that it's an impossible statement to make, that you don't actually have a weakness. So, self-awareness, very important. Know what you want to do, understand what your weakness is. And always, whenever you share a weakness, always explain how or what you're doing to fix it, right? You recognize it, and what can you do to fix it, right? Very important. Without the fixing piece, my biggest weakness is always going to be a weakness. So it's always going to be a problem for you. So you always want to have a point where you say, this is what I'm doing to fix the problem, right? Very important piece, okay? And this could be for anything. And if you have any questions related to, hey, look, how do I answer? This is my biggest weakness. How do I deal with it? If your biggest weakness is that you're lazy and you don't want to do any work and you want to chill at home and play video games, I probably would not point that. I would probably wouldn't, broadcast that. What I would do instead is take a piece of that and say, I find that motivation can be a concern for me to get started. And I've realized that for me to be successful and to feel motivated, I just need to get moving. And oftentimes I find the first 5 minutes are the only motivation I need. If I can get just going stuff for 5 minutes, I'm good to complete the task, right? And I've added, I've done, or I do Pomodoro or a couple of other techniques that are out there for getting motivated and doing work, right? The other one that I've used successfully is that I no longer depend on motivation to continue a task or start a task or complete a task. I depend on discipline and habit. And I've just made a habit for myself that I will start work at this time and I'll do it at this time. I will complete these tasks at these times. And that's why I've been successful, is that I no longer depend on the fickle nature of motivation, right? Again, just giving you an idea how to answer that question or how to answer those kind of questions honestly. And again, I would iterate, please make sure that your answers are honest. The reason why I bring that up is that if you lie and there are multiple different interviews, they're going to take notes. You may forget what you lied about. That's a problem. Also, this is the first step to you having maybe a long-term relationship with this organization. Do you really want to start off in a lie? And at the end of the day, liars always get caught. That's the problem you have. That's why I recommend with your resumes, please, if you're going to add extra flourish to your resume, make sure it's as close to truth as possible, because as soon as you start going into fantasy or lies, would be a better way to say it, lies, you're going to get caught. There are tons of different ways of you can get caught. If you're using LinkedIn, people will reach out. People may have contacts within the organization or company. Please do not lie on your resume. Do not lie on your during your interviews. Be as honest as possible. That does not mean that you can't use marketing language to pump up your resume a little bit, to make it a bit more attractive. And same with your interview answers. Don't be afraid to use language that is used in marketing or in sales to improve the amount of, improve the attraction of your answer or your resume, right? That's not a problem. That's not an issue. That's not a lie. That is just looking at it from a different perspective, or, adding a little bit more flair to what you're discussing already. So those are the two questions I find very frequently that happen. Secondly, third question that I find gets asked, and that can be problematic, is why do you want to work for this company? Right? Whatever company X and Y, why do you want to work there? Well, how are you going to answer that? Is it going to be simple? Hey, I want to work for this company because you guys pay a lot and I love it. That might be true. Hey, I haven't had a job in 6 months or a year or 2 years, and I'm just looking to get in. Yeah, that's fair, right? But again, the problem you have with it is that really how you want your interviewer to get a perception of you, right? Oh, I need to change 27. Yeah. So we don't want to have that idea or that concept. So what we want to do is take that answer, right? Take that question and look at, if you've done any research on the company, right? Say, hey, look, I'm very interested in helping organizations become digital, start in the digital journey and become digital natives. And I believe your organization X and Y is a phenomenal company, and I believe that it can provide that assistance to organization. Because I have noticed from my experience, in my previous experience, work experience, and also in personally, if you have personal experience from my family and friends, that own their own business. Going digital is not cheap, it's not easy, and it can feel very convoluted. And your company has the tools and skill sets to be able to help people do that. And I'm very interested in helping organizations get better. Right? Let's go another route. Let's say you're not selling a software solution. Let's say you're going somewhere, you're selling a physical good. Let's say heating and cooling, for an example. So I have experience in that industry. Great. So, you know what? It's for me, the biggest thing is that I like solving problems. And the fact is, for most homeowners, especially millennials, we don't really know what is required when it comes to maintaining a home. That may be incorrect. That may be just be true for the folks that I know. Is that a lot of folks are very confused and worried about all the things that need to be adjusted and changed, such as heating and cooling, and also realizing the fact that a lot of folks do have allergies and environmental issues and concerns in their home, considering that the home air inside the home is about 10 times worse than the air outside. And especially with global warming and smog and everything, air outside isn't really amazing either. My goal is to help folks be healthier and be happier in their homes, and their homes be the castle and comfort that they want. And I believe that company X and Y and Z has the tools to be able to help me achieve that goal. Right? Easy peasy, right? Let's say if you want to go retail wise, how would you answer that, right? Retail, let's say it is, I'm not going to go telecom. I've already talked about cell phones enough. So let's go something else. Let's go, you are doing clothing, retail wise. So when it comes to that, why do you want to work for this company? Well, to be fair, company X and XYZ, I am actually not here to just work. I'm also a customer. I love buying your products. I love the fact that they're very fashion forward and cost conscious, and I feel like I can pair things with pair things together and make them work really well for an individual. And I think I would love to be able to share that skill set with other folks that are purchasing your products. Right? Easy peasy answer. You've leveraged your own skill set and you've kind of, driven through it. And again, just make sure when they ask you that question, you're not just going, well, you guys pay money, so I'm game. To be fair, one of my interviews, I actually said, I had a very good rapport with the interviewer. This was the last interview for me. And I simply said, hey, look, you know what? I'm very successful in my current role. I am doing really well. And realizing the fact that I have improved my skill set and I am very successful, there's only so much I could do for organizations at my previous role. So for me to continue to benefit and grow as an individual, as a salesperson, I knew that I need to work for the best of the best, and you guys are the best. And when an opportunity comes to work for the best, I will work there, because that's how I get better. That's how I can improve myself personally, and that's how I can help more people and more organizations. Right? You know what? It was honest. I have built a lot of time sharing the fact that my goal in my professional career, money's always nice, but that's not always the main goal for me when I look for an opportunity. My goal is to grow myself as an individual, as a professional, and I want to have companies that will allow me to do that. Right? So being able to leverage those are some of the tough questions that you get. I'm just trying to remember the other one that actually I had noted down to discuss about, what are the tough interview questions? What do people, ask for? Yeah, well, and you'll get a couple of silly ones that I think are kind of funny. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Honest answer is, honest answer generally works well. Hey, do you know what? I would love to be in a more strategic role. So let's say this is B2B. I love to be in a more strategic role where I can share my expertise and knowledge that I've built over the past 5 years and leverage that to help the company grow faster and quicker. Right? Great answer. B2C, where do you see yourself in that? Well, depending on what you want to achieve, if you want to go into marketing or if you want to be management, what else, you can go that route. But you can say, hey, like in 5 years, I want to continue growing as an individual and as a professional. So what I will probably be looking to do is see if there's a path for me to be somewhere in management role within your organization, within this organization, or somewhere in the marketing role because I enjoy it in that role, or administrative role, whatever role you're going for, or whatever role you're interested in. Just, hey, share that. In 5 years, that's where I want to be. This is what the projection will be. You don't need to actually point out roles or, I want to be a director, I want to be a CEO. Great ambitions to have, but what I would say is you don't need to go that route. Just explain what department you like to be a part of and, what kind of role you'd want. You'd still want to be, frontline, or do you want to be more strategic? You can have that, or supporting role or those kind of things, right? Easy way to answer those questions. The other one I have written down is, why do you want to leave your current work? Hey, that's a great question. Please, this is where I have to really, 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 and let me explain, really advise people, do not badmouth your former employers. Doesn't matter how terrible the company is, do not badmouth them, please. Because the expectation people will have is that if you're badmouthing your former employer, you're going to be bad-mouthing them after, bad-mouthing the current company you're interviewing with after you leave them. So don't bad-mouth. Easiest thing to do is say, hey, look, you know what? Let's say you're leaving a current job. You weren't fired or laid off. So let's say we'll go that route. You say, hey, look, it was a great organization. I received a lot of, I learned a lot from the organization, but I currently feel like my growth is slowed or stopped in the current position I'm in and the current organization I'm with right now. So for me to continue growing and developing, I want to move to an organization that can provide me those opportunities, right? It's okay to have that conversation, share that piece. Please don't badmouth the employers. If you've been laid off, hey, be upfront. Hey, look, I got laid off. The company overhired during the pandemic, and now it's and when they laid off folks, I was one of the folks that was laid off. So I'm looking to find a new opportunity. If you're fired, just confirm that you're actually fired, right? Because many times you can be fired, but what may happen is that they give you 2-week or whatever your severance pay is, whatever. You can easily discuss that. Hey, look, you know what? I was working there for this long. New management came in. It didn't work out. They had different direction of where they wanted to go. And, this was a good opportunity for me to part ways and find new opportunities. There you go. Again, you're not making a big deal of it. You're just explaining, hey, new management came in. They had a different direction they wanted to go. And, we decided to part ways. I decided to look for new opportunities and we parted ways. There you go. Easy peasy. So how do you answer, the gap in the work history? Best way to do it is honestly as possible, right? Folks that were laid off or fired, oftentimes they're concerned, it becomes a concern like, oh, what happens? It's 6 months, a year, I don't have a job. What were you doing at that time, right? Were you raising a baby? That could easily be it. Hey, you took time off to help raise your family. It's a valid reason for men and women. So please don't be afraid to use that if that's the case, or be ashamed of that. Please, it's a fantastic reason. Family comes first. Easy peasy. But let's just say that that's not the reason why you have it. Let's say you were ill. Say, hey, look, you know what? I had a health condition that required me to take some time off. But I'm better now. and I want to go back to the working world, right? I personally would say be careful about the health piece. That can open a lot of can of worms. It could be, hey, look, you know what? I was writing a book. I opened another venture on the side. I want to take some time off to spend with the family and, whatever things may be. Explain it. Again, polish it so it doesn't go like, hey, look, do you know what? I was having a mental breakdown, so I just needed some time off. Just, you don't need to go that route. Say, hey, look, do you know what? After working continuously for 15, 20 years or 10 years and working very hard, I needed some time off so I didn't burn out. I need some time off to rediscover myself and figure out what I want to do in my life. And this is the opportunity, now I've gone through that journey. This is the opportunity for me to get back. Again, very, very solid question, very, very solid answers to that question. Don't be afraid of that question. Don't be ashamed. Don't try to hide it. Don't try to go like, what should I do there or what happens there? What you may be asked is, tell me about a time where you made a mistake, right? Please don't say I never make mistakes. That's the worst answer you can give. Second worst answer is sharing something that is ethically or legally dubious, unless you have a very good reason of how you've gone back, how you learned from that mistake. Make a mistake, make it fair. You could say, hey, look, do you know what? I'll go the past example. Well, as I shared previously, I failed my operational audit, and that resulted in me being on a performance enhancement plan. It really, really was terrible. It felt terrible. That was the first time I had really failed in my professional career. And it was really the first time where, I was reprimanded and I had like actual consequences for the actions I took. University and college and school don't really count as much because those consequences are, you just take the course again next year or you drop the course. The fact that I had an actual issue or problem, I had to find ways to, first and foremost, get over the hurt feeling of being reprimanded, but then also learning, what were the folks trying to teach me? What was my manager trying to teach me? Learning from that and making sure that I become more open to feedback, and especially constructive feedback, and doing what I can to improve that constructive feedback, right? So make sure you're leveraging your mistakes and showing how you've grown because of your mistakes. Don't just give a mistake and leave it at there. It does not help anyone. All right, folks, these were some of the tricky questions that I think you're going to get. If you have other questions that you think that maybe that I haven't answered or responded to that you would like me to help you out on, you can always leave them on the comment on this side here. Yeah, this side there. Anytime, and I actively check and I respond to any of the comments and all that fun stuff. Next week, I think I'm going to continue with this interview piece and do the part 3 where I talk about after interview piece, like after you've asked, you've answered their questions, what kind of questions you should ask, where the process starts after that, like how often should you follow up, what should you be doing, all kinds of those interesting pieces. All right, folks, thank you very much. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and